Hello! Welcome all of my beautiful friends and extended earth and cosmic family. We are approaching the change of a season, and with that we have this new moon in Libra that occurs Saturday, Sunday, and I've already been witnessing some of the magic of this new moon, and it seems as if we've really been focused on relationships for quite some time now, and there were some months where that was more apparent, definitely during May, during the eclipses, and then during Leo season. And now here we come again around to Libra, and very focused on relationships. As I'm saying this, the word humility is coming in, and Libra being about justice and balance and harmony and peace, and also still in a Mercury retrograde, so our communication, the way that we are speaking to ourselves, reevaluating our communication patterns in our relationships is at a peak point. So let's consult with the cosmos and get some further guidance as to how we can support ourselves during this new moon phase, and any other themes that we might be working with. So if you are new to this channel, subscribe if you want to continue to receive notifications for when these videos are live or when recordings go up. And if you would, like the videos so that the algorithms will support this channel and get out this information to more people. So I've got just about all my decks out here today, which is not something I typically do. I am planning to do a separate reading for the equinox. However, anytime I say these things, my plans just get hijacked by the universe because it wants something else. So that's the plan right now, is for this just to be based on the new moon, but because it is it's following the equinox, these two are going to be interrelated and overlapping one another. So new moon, Libra new moon. What's our mind working with? So from the Untethered Soul deck, we have, how do you free yourself? In the deepest sense, you free yourself by finding yourself. And the Tao is in the middle. It's the place where there is no energy pushing in either direction. This is a potent time for the evolution of the planet, as we are restructuring our relationships, redefining who we are in relationship, and in particularly that relationship with ourselves, right? In the deepest sense, you free yourself by finding yourself. So where have you obscured your vision, been in denial, refused to integrate some part of yourself? This is a card that I'm not familiar with. This is the Thunder card. Let's see what the Thunder card presents. Legends speak of great thunder beings who live in the sky and call for your attention when great occurrences are meant to happen in the world. They warn when tensions in a situation are called upon to be released. Their presence in your reading reminds you of the dramatic moments in life that change everything, both awesome and frightening when thunder arrives. It is also a wake-up call, one that you will soon not forget. When thunder comes into your reading, it refers to a big dramatic change that feels like a herd of wild bison on the run. You feel it right through your bones, and you know that you are powerless to influence whatever events have been set in motion. This is a time to be prepared for anything. Your life is an adventure, and a wonderful opportunity is arriving now. The trick is to learn to run with them. Qualities that you'll need now more than ever are flexibility, dexterity, and a willingness to experience it all without dictating from where or in what form opportunities will come. Your destiny is arriving, so be ready. Do you feel like unnecessary drama is waylaying your life? Could you be exhausted from listening to others tell you their never-ending victim story? Or could you be telling yourself a version of the same? It's time for an about face. You're being warned that to continue on this path will cause you to regret your choices, even if they appear benign or familiar. It's time to say no to drama, both yours and others. Focus on solutions rather than problems. You're worthy of drama-free life. Ooh, so that feels very collective, and I'm gonna wait to say what I'm starting to feel into, and just reference another card for this implication collectively. Let go of situations that no longer serve you. The divine solution may not always be what you want, but it will always be for your spiritual advancement and will always bring the best result. So assessing those relationships in your life. Relationships, everything in our life is about relationships. Not just our relationship with people, our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with God, but it's everything. With the planet, with food, with our body, with stress. So thinking about this middle path, the place where there's no resistance, there's no push, there's no pull, it's just the way. It's the leaf that's carried on the current down the stream. So what situation are you still holding on to that you can feel that tugging? Has this been something that you have just been maybe not only in denial to some degree, but a little self-destructive in holding on, making yourself the victim when really you have the keys to free yourself. And it seems that if you are going to continue to stay in this illusion that you have the ability to control the situation by preventing something from happening, by holding on to fear, then you are increasing the likelihood of something dramatic taking place. And when these things happen, when we absolutely are in refusal, we're digging our heels in, the things that happen are we get really ill. We have accidents. There is an increase of urgency to get our attention, and unfortunately, the only way that we can receive those messages is by life-altering events that really wake us up, that wake the consciousness up out of like that reptilian way of acting that's so hyper-focused on the fear and self-preservation that it's unwilling to really receive that divine message that you've been getting through all kinds of signs and synchronicities and feelings, the feelings of alignment, the feelings of freedom, just when you think in that direction. So, empathy is going to be really necessary in this process, as well as trust. Yeah. Empathy and trust. Relationships. You can trust that what's meant to be will be. And sure, that's very easy to say. But sometimes your mind, or maybe it's your inner child, the wounds that you're allowing to continue the behavior that's acting out of fear, that may need to be spoken to. That what is meant to be will be. And that is the process of trust. Trust only happens by taking the step out into the unknown. I just realized I was like being really serious in this conversation, not smiling. I tried to smile. According to feedback from y'all. So I accept that my inner voice will always guide me correctly. And I see this with a lot of people. They're like, yeah, but how can I know? How can I actually know and trust myself? Well, your feelings cannot lie. Feelings are a vibrational indicator. It is your thought about the feeling that can be misleading. So that's why you have to evaluate the thought process. Is this something that has actually been proved in my life, or is this a fear that has returned? And maybe if some part of you believes that assessment was accurate, you have to look at the time that was imprinted. If it was imprinted in childhood, is it possible that yes, of course, your assessment about the situation was very true for you at that time from the perspective of a child? This is where you reparent, and you have to look at it from the adult situation, and you have to use empathy, okay? Like, especially our inner child work, and I'm getting a lot of this inner child theme this month. You know, how often were we told as our parents, when you get older, you'll understand? Or when we got older, actually going, man, I really was blah, 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 blah. And apologizing to your parents for not listening to them. So this has a very similar quality and feel to that. But now it's time to go within and do that for yourself. So assessing these situations, person, job, money, fear, love, attachment, whatever it is, how do you invite empathy into it? How can you step outside of the victim mentality of the universe has done something to you, God has done something to you, a person has done something to you? How can you step outside of that disempowering perception and look at it from another point of view where you can actually feel for the other party? And if it's not a person that this relationship is with, that this is with some part of yourself, how do you empathize with that part of yourself? How do you empathize with the child who, only had the limited concept of what love was, or what intimacy was, what sexuality was, what safety was, power? How do you give that back to yourself? And I'll tell you, one of the ways that can be done is if you set yourself an intentional space, undisturbed, okay? Good boundaries here. It has to be undisturbed, sacred space where you feel safe. And then you go back to that point in time and you visualize yourself. If you can't visualize yourself, get your hands on a picture of yourself from childhood, close to that age if you can. And gaze at that. You will make a connection with it. You will feel through the eyes of yourself or through the image where empathy had been lost, where actually you had projected judgment onto yourself. Because everything in our outer world is in fact a projection of the inner world. It's part of the incredibly intelligent, holographic nature of this reality as co-creative beings of the one divine force of creation. So how can you give empathy to any part of the inner child or inner adolescent? Or it could be yourself yesterday, your adult. You have to feel it. You have to take yourself out of the box of shame, guilt, and allow yourself to view things from a new point. And with the relationship card, this card says, I'm attracted to those people who serve my higher good. And we have to know that if there's a longing for something more, especially when it comes to friendships and community and romance, we have to know that the only way that we will ever manifest those kinds of healthy, vibrant, balanced relationships is through balancing and harmonizing the relationship with ourself, with our inner child. And also that there's no room to bring in new relationship when we're holding on to an old relationship that is past its time. Okay, this is like thinking of keeping around old food in your home. It rots, and then there's, decaying matter that attracts other creatures to help decompose it. But it's just accumulating more of what you don't want, right? Like it's actually, you're having to exert way more energy the longer you hold on to something that has past its evolutionary point in your process. And of course, what happens when we let things just continue to rot, like food, is that it becomes an infestation for bugs and animals. And then that starts to wane on our health, right? We pick up bacteria, and then there's problems with the home itself. The home starts to decompose. So this is really important. Like, it's not a time to push it off again. It's time to answer. It's time to let go. It's time to be in that middle path. To be brave, to be courageous. and to give yourself justice. You are justified in cutting people off that are siphoning your life force and your happiness and your potential. And truly, as long as you stay in that relationship, even if you believe that you are the victim, you are just as much the persecutor, because you're preventing that person from evolving in the way they need to. This is a mutual thing. Like, I've done the narcissist empath relationship. Okay, I've got quite a bit of experience in navigating that, and I can tell you that it's a complete illusion to believe that you are a victim to that situation. It doesn't mean that you aren't on the end of being abused. It doesn't mean that you haven't been hurt. It doesn't mean any of that. What it means is that you absolutely have the power to stop that. But you are enabling that person to continue on in their own suffering. So who's really the victim then? This is an equal exchange. This is a growing contract. This is part of growing into right relationship. Is you have to go through that process of really owning your power. And as long as you choose to stay in a situation where you're giving it away, then you really can't ever believe that you're worthy of anything more than that. That has to come first. You have to believe that you're worthy of that, and you have to step out and trust. You just have to step out into the unknown. You embrace the fear. You go to the fear. The fear is the liberation. Y'all feel me? You get what I'm throwing down? Okay. Now, this is where we're starting to get some crossover from the equinox. So, vegetarian, vegan diet. This is what the angel cards are indicating. And I'll tell you the reason for this, according to my interpretation, is that we feel through our solar plexus. This is where, let's just say energetically, anatomically, we receive that information, the energy in motion, emotion. This is where we receive it. This is where we feel it, okay? We receive the information through the gut, and we have the reaction, the gut reaction. It's also why we have the gut-brain connection, why that's so closely linked. We feel it in the heart, the partner of the solar plexus. But this is the center of willpower. This is the center of the self, of confidence. And that's based on how much we trust our intuition. Now, if we're full of toxins, if we're constantly taking in things that make us really dense, I want you to imagine, how well could you see light if you were to have like 30 sheets of paper, really thin paper, right? Like that extremely thin paper that they wrap sandwiches with. I don't know what that's called. Or like wax paper. If you had like 30 sheets of wax paper and you held a flashlight up to it, okay, depends on how many lumens that flashlight is. But, you know, it would make a big difference between that and one sheet of paper. Okay, so I say that to give a concept of density and light, density and energy, since light is energy. So if your body is full of these denser things, the meats, the processed foods, sugars, and the stuff that our body isn't related to as far as being a part of the natural world. Our body processes food. It needs to process food that is organic in its nature. And, you know, I know there's an argument there for meat, you know, and like I'm 100% intuitive eater. But I do know that when we stick to things like vegetables and purified waters, coconut water, we stick to the things that are grown in an environment that's healthy and natural, that it's easily processed through our body. And when our body's resources are not being dedicated to trying to digest things that aren't meant to go in our body, then we have a lot more energy available to digest the energy in motion coming through that informational center in the subtle bodies. So this is one of the reasons why I always say that you have to, in order to be really, really refined and attuned to your intuitive capabilities, to hyper perception, then you have to be conscious of what you're putting in the vessel. So that being said, as we are, I hope this is still recording. Sorry, got distracted because my YouTube just shut down. As long as this is going into, let me back up. The more clear your vessel is, the faster you interpret the information, the faster you feel, the faster you can access your intuition, the better, the more accurately you can assess the information that's coming into your system. You can determine where the Tao is. You can determine where there's resistance and where there's flow. And we are going into a new season, okay? So when you go into a new season, your body is going to need new things. Back before we had this incredible access to everything we want at the click of a button or a trip to the grocery store, we would start to adapt to the vegetables and the foods of that season, because they would provide us with all of the minerals and the elements and the vitamins that we need for that time of the year, according to that location on Earth. So it's also a time to really, notice. And your body's going to tell you, like, there's a significant difference between eating that thing that you always eat at that same time every day. Look, I'm one of those people. I love my paleo waffles in the morning. But you have to feel like do you actually crave that? Do you actually want that? Or is it just a habitual pattern? And if it's a habitual pattern, now it's time to ask your body what else would serve it. What would it prefer? When I'm going through the seasons, there's always a time where I don't want anything. Nothing sounds good. And what that is my body saying, hey, it's time to fast. Let's reset. Because if you fast, you get to reset your whole system. And then you get to bring in whatever the new energy is. Again, like when we're digesting food, that is taking up a lot of our life force on a daily basis that could be going towards other things. And it seems like this is really hitting the Indigo children right now. Indigo children awaken. That's what I'm hearing. Major activation that that started happening from Lionsgate, and it's in a progressive state right now. And if you're an Indigo Child, then you know what I'm talking about. There's been a revolution around your life, and have you taken the step yet that you've been needing to take, or have you been clamped down on fear? And there's no judgment either way, but one path is going to be much more challenging than the other path. The challenge, the initial challenge of embracing the fear and doing the thing, that there's an intensity to that, but it's short-lived. And then you fall back into the doubt, where there's ease and there's grace. Let go of situations that no longer serve you. The divine solution may not always be what you want, but it will always be for your spiritual advancement and will always bring the best result. All right, our last card. So this is from the Hawaiian deck, the Earth Warrior Oracle deck. Luku Vaiana. I don't know if that's actually how it's pronounced. Grace of she who rides the owl. Pueo. Pueo. Stunning photos in here. I am the goddess of spiritual awakening, wealth, and balance. I come to correct a dharma, that which is dark, unnatural, and against nature, life, love, and goodness. I redress the misuse of wealth and power. I awaken the heart to the vision of light and truth that was once hidden. Trust in the innocence of your soul and fear not, for I am ever watchful, and my grace brings truth. Divine justice is always brought to bear with compassion. Ooh, wow. I want to talk about a card that sums this whole thing up. Trust, compassion, empathy, grace, letting go. Don't waste your valuable time and energy worrying about people getting away with things. On a cosmic level, there is only justice. There is not always visible at human level, and yet that doesn't preclude divine order unfolding. Everything is balanced by karma in the long run. So this poses the question is, if you are in this relationship, situation, dynamic, then is some part of you being spiteful or really focused on them getting what they deserve? And that's keeping you also locked into this. So maybe you've already begun a separation or separated, but you're still in relationship with this person simply because you're having these thoughts. You're sending energy and almost provoking the relationship to stay in contact just through the will of the thought and the emotion behind making sure they get what they deserve. So can there be empathy? Can you step out of that, out of the anger and out of the rage and out of the projection itself, and trust that whatever is necessary to balance the karmic debt there, whatever that person actually needs to realign with love, has nothing to do with you anymore except for your ability to forgive and let go. And that the universe, that's the universe's job, that's God's job. And you have to trust that, which means you have to put it into action and take some steps and some measures to get out of that self-destructive way of thinking and expending energy. Ooh. Quite a couple 2 weeks ahead of us. This is a big time. So just recapping, if you want to be free, you have to know yourself. If you want to find out why you are attracting these relationships, person or situation, identify within you what that is that you haven't learned yet, that you haven't accepted about yourself. Where do you not trust the universe enough to provide, so much that you have created this situation of needing to control life, control outcomes, control other people, so that you don't have to step into the unknown of the fear? And are you willing to continue to sacrifice your peace? Are you willing to continue to enable by refusing to let go of toxicity? This is relative to the body too. If you're wanting to remove some situation that's stagnant or unhealthy, you can start with your body. If that's an easier place for you to go, you can start with your body. Get your body clear, get it healthy, get it strong, sweat, work out, get on the earth, put foods in that are nourishing, ask your body what it needs, provide loving messages to your body, encouragement, affirmations. Then you will start to build more access and power in the subtle bodies, in your emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies. It has to start somewhere, though. You can't just bypass it and think that everything's okay just because you say it is. This requires a great deal of trust. But you do have to start somewhere. Otherwise, you could be looking at serious advancements in the severity of situations that are messages to let go, to reroute. I thank you all so much for receiving this message. If you feel like it would be helpful to anyone that you know, please share, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you want to know anytime I'm live or I've recorded a new recording. And as always, sending you great blessings, and may this be a season where you choose love over fear, over and over and over. Keep it simple and stay pure. Pura vida.